4, 3, 2, rewind.
Rise of the Fallen, MMO Quest, Pantheon. Once again, time to pledge. Very excited. We're here to talk. Let's get this party to
share your thoughts.
Co-host Derek.
Weekly Adventures, co-host Desiree. We're almost professional.
Full disclosure.
Dangerous combination. Creating content and optimizations. I've got a lore video coming. Cannot wait, which is all about drone fast and some sort of like cake. Mail on a Sunday.
News and notes.
Schedule for this week.
Hot cocoa. All these people.
Supports the show. Adventuring party.
You ready? Let's go.
Let me take a deep breath.
Welcome, friends and fellow Pantheonians. This is the Pantheon Plus Rewind, the weekly podcast where we try to stuff everything both official and from the community into a Sunday morning talk show. This week's show is overflowing with goodies as we try to cram the monthly newsletter, March calendar, community content, and a special segment recapping our recently streamed couple hours of Pantheon pre-alpha all into one episode. This is going to be one massive show, so join me, Desrin, and my colossal co-host, Theric, for this week's Rewind. Oh, Theric, have you ever noticed how we get way less people showing up for the YouTube premiere, specifically on pre-alpha testing weekends?
I have noticed that, actually. It's
just weird.
It's an unfortunate coincidence that we ourselves are part of the problem.
It's true. It's true.
You know, we schedule the show at, so it's noon Eastern, right? So it's usually right in the thick of, or I guess near the end of the testing session.
The last
sometimes.
hour. I mean, people can see that on the calendars and stuff. Like, we're premiering literally at the end.
Well, yeah, and we try to make it interesting, but no matter how interesting our show is, it's never going to compete.
It's never pre-alpha, right?
No.
Hopefully,
but then again, we
close,
don't,
but,
Yeah, someday, maybe this week will be the week that we break that barrier, break the glass ceiling, as they say.
Maybe. I mean, dude, let's be real. Like, we've got a kind of double feature today, right?
We do, yeah. I mean, we're trying to. I mean, if this is the week, if it's going to happen, this will be the week because we've got an interesting new segment to try and push it past the limits.
Yep, exactly. So, I kind of don't want to waste any time. But you know what's never a waste of time, Theric?
No,
it's introducing our adventuring party. So.
Yes.
So we've got Ziplocks on the Darkmoor Rogue, Sparrow on the Elf Ranger, Bounty Code on the Human Wizard, Screech on the Scar Bard, WikiWoo on the Human Enchanter, Shuriken on the Dwarf Cleric, Horsosaurus on the Human Warrior, Trodude on the Halfling Direlord, Fury Wrath on the Archive Summoner, Pavejo on the Gnome Wizard, Acera Avienda on the Elf Ranger, Galarain Moonsong also on the Elf Ranger, Annoying Llama on the Human Monk. As usual, thank you, everyone on our adventuring party. And if you'd like to get your name read aloud and become part of the adventuring party, you can check our Patreon in the description. And if you are more of a scrolling banner in the video type, you can check out the comments if you don't make the premiere, or the premiere for a super thanks or super chat. Either one of those will get your name on the banner here. Yeah, so I got to add, I'm not, like I said, I don't want to waste time, but I want to add just kind of a general extra bonus thank you to everyone that watches, listens, or just supports our content as a whole at Pantheon Plus. Because without your interest, I don't know if we'd have that privilege to do what we got to do this weekend.
No, definitely we wouldn't. It's everybody out there is so supportive of us doing this, and I see the comments, like, let's get the content creators out there, let's get them doing some stuff. I really, really appreciate it, and that's the spark that lights the fire for them. So yeah,
and just everyone's kind of genuine excitement that we get to do this is it's really cool, and it drives us forward. So I really hope that our coverage kind of does justice for all that support that you guys have given. And just another heartfelt thanks. And I hope we do you proud.
Yeah, well said.
Well, let's start stumbling into this.
Let's go. This week in Visionary Realms News and Notes. All right, so we got the February Pantheon monthly newsletter. It came out on Thursday, February 23rd. And, there was some good stuff in here. Not the most jam-packed newsletter ever, but
Yeah.
definitely some stuff that we can dig into, right?
Yeah,
So,
there were a ton of whoops, I'm punching my microphone already. There were a ton of sections here that were listed as updated, but with the same info as last month, and some with the same info from the month prior as well. So I think we'll probably just skip those generally.
Yeah. I tried to weed those out. I actually was comparing the two newsletters, like the roadmaps, as I was making my notes, and I tried to catch the ones that were the same, and I think I caught them all. Maybe I missed one, but it's kind of like we talked about it on a previous show. That's just those are ongoing items where they're constantly doing stuff, but the text doesn't change on the roadmap. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they started off this newsletter actually with a very bold statement saying that they made, quote, incredible progress this month on their crafting and gathering systems. And also, quote, these system updates will be ready to experience in our upcoming pre-alpha test this weekend. So that's the one we're going to be in. So that's exciting. And I wanted to know more about the specifics. And if you go down to the roadmap, they actually gave us exactly what they've added to the gathering and crafting systems. So they said, firstly, spawn rules and locations for mining nodes in Thronefest have been updated. The code that underlies gathering interactions has been improved. They added a mining hotbar that's been enabled.
Yeah.
So that's
and
neat.
just to tie this into, one of those cards that does say updated, even though nothing's changed, it really ties into the ability loadout section. And
Right. That's
yeah. Well, even though it wasn't, quote, updated, I think this does have to do with that same system because it's, at least as I imagine it, part of ability loadouts is switching your bar, right? So it's good to see that is progressing into like a tangible bit of gameplay, even if it's kind of a unexpected way. I can't say I was expecting gathering first.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with all of this update on the crafting and gathering. I didn't know that they were doing so much with it. I know they've hinted at it, but it seems like there's been a lot of investment in this part of the game, and adding a UI element of some sort that shows your hotbar for mining, and the next node actually goes to talk about that, where it's talking about gathering techniques that have been enabled. So we know with techniques from a combat standpoint how they work, right? So they're weapon based, and basically you build up your readiness to use them, and you gather readiness by taking and dealing damage. So they've managed to do this into the crafting system, into the gathering system, I should say. So the current techniques they listed include precision strike, solid grip, powerful strikes, chipping, and strike the earth. So again, a system that we've seen before, but in a different way, a different context, I guess you might say, right? Yeah. So I really like this kind of stuff. Again, it reminds me of EverQuest 2's crafting. It reminds me of Vanguard crafting and gathering. So interesting that they're following this, and Nefel is a big fan of both of those games. We've talked with him about that. So he's a fan.
I have to kind of throw this in here, just in case. I don't know if Nefel was in beta super long in Vanguard, but folks that were in there for a really long time will note that the very first iteration of Gathering in Vanguard actually had abilities and all this stuff very similar, it sounds like, to what we've got going on here. And the funny thing is that system actually got scrapped in favor of just, click and...
Yeah, it was ended up being pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
I think they wanted the complexity to be in the diplomacy system in that game. I mean, I don't know what they wanted, but the way
both
it turned
of them
out,
were worked on by the same person. So that's kind of the funny thing is I think he was just told, we've already got so much going on, But
because diplomacy is very complex, not complex, but it's more intricate than the gathering system is. So,
but it does make sense that they would use the same tech and apply it this way, because I wouldn't say any of these systems are supposed to be trivial in Pantheon. The way that this is manifested is definitely a bit of a surprise, I would say.
Yeah.
but I'm for it. Why not, man?
It's funny when gathering and crafting were first sort of talked at length about by VR, and this is going back 2-3 years now, because we knew they were going to be a part of the game. We just didn't know anything about them.
Right.
They never really talked about them before Nefel was hired and everything. I remember somebody in the community saying to me that they were really worried about the game at that point because they thought crafting and gathering were wasted effort. Like they thought this is not a system that adds anything to the game, and they were very, very pessimistic about it. But I'd be interested to see how they feel about it now, because it sounds like with what they're telling us here, we're going to get to some more details. But it's like you say, it's very it's not a trivial system. It's a bona fide system that is adding a lot of interaction to the game with the player. And we've said this before, but it's something to do when you don't maybe have a lot of time to group. You can go out and do some gathering and crafting. I think they've come to that realization, or they maybe knew it all along, but it's something that I've maybe become more cognizant of, that a system like this really gives the player who doesn't have the time to get a group set up and do stuff, that requires that kind of time commitment to actually play the game.
True. I think it's a bit of a paradigm shift, and I hope people start to understand, like folks that, maybe weren't really for a more in-depth gathering system, that they understand, at least as I envision it. I think they're going for more of a like sparse approach to gathering than maybe we're used to, which I think might be why some people are more against it being more involved, because they're used to going from node to node to node to node to node to node, just like a line of stuff, where if you had to like really engage with that over and over and over again, it would get really, really obnoxious. But it seems like these are more like spread like out. It's supposed to be more of a special thing when you encounter a node. I think that's been said too. It's like, it's supposed to be more of a like, oh my gosh, like look at that over there. Like while you're, adventuring and your group can get involved, and it's like this effort versus just a monotonous over and over again. And I love the departure myself, but I know it's kind of contentious whether this should be an involved thing or not. And you add that with it was confirmed recently that we're gonna have gear, and all like it's a whole sphere, if I could use that term. And it's going. It's like they're putting it in, so hopefully people get to see that.
I knew once they hired Nefel that it wasn't going to be some sort of trivial throwaway system. Like just knowing what he knows and speaking to him, having had conversations, I know his, the way he looks at this is he wouldn't accept anything that is silly and stupid and been done before a million times. Like he's just not going to be okay with that. So all these little details here are really in giving me confidence that the system's going to be something people enjoy. A couple other notes that they added in terms of the details for this update. It says actually the codex, there's a section of the codex for profession abilities that's been implemented now, which is interesting. There's improved interactions with the smelting location. The crafting window has been updated and improved. And one of the more exciting ones is they talk about schematics. I almost said schematics. I don't know why. Schematics. Yeah. So there's a new schematic selection interface that's been added, and additional schematics have been added for smelting and blacksmithing. So I really thought this was interesting because schematics have been mentioned in the past, but not for a while. So I wanted to go back and look and see, refresh my memory, what they were, how they worked. And I searched my notes for when we last heard about them. And coincidentally, it was February 2021, there was a developer stream where Nefel was the guest. That's when they gave us the basics. And then in April of 2022, Nefel gave us a bit more detail. And Desmond, I remember after we did the show that week, we talked about it, obviously, and there were questions. And Nefel was in chat with us during the Rewind chat. And my past self was having a big brain day and decided to clip those comments from Nefel, screenshot them, and I did. Dude, and I still have them.
That's awesome. That's such this is why I take notes, guys.
Yeah, man. Clip those developer those dev comments, because you never know when you might find them useful. So a couple things that Nefel noted at the time, and this is again from last year. He said that the ways you find schematic items, you can buy them from merchants, loot them, or be given them by NPCs as rewards, trade for them with factions, or maybe other secret ways. He said as well, usually the schematic will dictate the model that they use, and he would like to have materials influence the textures and shaders, but that's on the art team, so he didn't really confirm that. There was a question from somebody in the community about losing materials if your crafting fails, and same thing with schematics. If you use a schematic and your doesn't work out, what's the thinking there? Nefel said, we'll probably protect some extremely rare materials from being lost, but I would not expect it unless we're talking about things that are almost unique. So, and somebody's like, oh man, if I lose a schematic, that's pretty rough, right? And Nefel said he's leaning towards letting you keep the schematic if you fail. But he said, we'll see how evil I'm feeling when we implement
Yeah,
this.
that's such a Nefel comment. He's such a teaser. Like, that's just part of who he is. That's one reason I'm so surprised by all of this. Is just because like Nefel's always teasing, and so I just never know when the drop's actually going to happen. But yeah, anyway,
he's very active in the Discord, in the official Discord. I don't know, for people that aren't in there, you might want to,
and on the forums.
Get on the forums. Just go over there and make an account or whatever, and get in on the VIP, the official Discord, because Nefel is talking over there quite a bit. So just some answers that I thought were really interesting, and some good reminders about how this crafting system works and schematics and all that. So yeah, like I said, it's a good system, and it sounds like they put a lot of work in, and interesting to see how what we see in this weekend's PA test, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what we'll be able to do, right? But going from seeing Ko, I think he refined something, right? Or he tried to.
Tried.
And this was directly addressed in some of the updates that we just read off. It doesn't sound like it's done, right? It's definitely not done. It's not done. So it's one of those things where like, I don't know if it's worth, if it's worth it, right? Until there's like a full crafting, like, make a sword. Like when we can make a sword, that's probably going to be the monumental day. But either way, like I was surprised to see all this coming in like now. I'm not going to complain, of course, because obviously this is a major part of the game, and the longer it's in, the more mature it can get, and work with other systems and et cetera, et cetera. Like it's good. It's totally good. But yeah, big surprise. I love all the plans that he's got, and trust me, these plans they've been laid out. They're everywhere. So it's going to be a really fun ride if they keep going on this. Absolutely.
So that was the big first part. Now, the other substantive update that VR gave us in the newsletter was about where they're at with their underlying networking tech. And we've been hearing about the post-vinyl implementation stuff for the last few months. And but the message here that we got in this newsletter is that they basically are happy with where it's at, and they're ready to move on and reallocate the resources to other systems. I'm going to read the quote because it's a good one. It says, quote, "A large amount of time focused on Pantheon's various back-end systems in order to make the network, data, and server performance rock solid in preparation for alpha testing. As we look toward the next month, we're excited to start shifting our engineering resources more fully onto game system development. As this shift occurs, we will start to see a much greater rate of development on game mechanics, similar to the progress we've seen on gathering and crafting this month." So that's really cool, right? Like that's tells you that maybe we can use this as a gauge for what we can expect on other fronts now. So classes, like you said, the surprise was that they spent so much time on gathering and crafting, whereas they still need to do, like, a lot of the classes still need to get done, right? And this kind of thing. So
yeah,
it's a positive.
It is a really positive thing. And just because you brought up the classes thing, they actually have a reason for not pushing classes right now, especially with their kind of limited resources, right? It's to start with the basics, right? And get that in a good spot. And while that hurts, as someone that wants, both of us are like, our mains are not in the game yet, I think we understand that they don't need to rush a bunch of classes, because then it just means they have to juggle all of them, right? And so it's one of those bittersweet kind of a things. I'm really glad to hear about this. So this is one of the most positive parts of the newsletter for me. I do think we'll be seeing more, gameplay stuff popping up as the engineering resources are freed up. Because there's a lot of other tasks that have just been waiting. So I'm definitely personally, like, selfishly, I guess, waiting for like pets and class related systems, but there's just so much. Fortunately, they have 3 programming resources now, veteran as well, so like I'm really excited to see what happens when they can take their eyes off of vinyl for a second.
Yeah, well, although the words rock solid preparation for alpha testing is a pretty nice, pretty strong wording right there to where they're at, how they feel about it. So I'm glad to see that.
I hope we get to demonstrate the rock solidness.
I really do. Yeah, me too, man. This is the core of everything. And if if this PA test this weekend goes super smoothly, it's really, that would be really great. So in terms of other miscellaneous things that were updated on the roadmap, I did note the climbing had a little bit of a different wording, but it says climbing is now associated with an improvable skill. Improving your skill in climbing will reduce your endurance drain while climbing and increase your climbing speed. So compared to last month, there was some updates on climbing last month too, but this month it talks a little bit more about the improvable skill and like I said, climbing, basically getting better at it over time.
See, I in my notes I had it as like the same thing. That's why I didn't note it.
I went back and double checked. Yeah, I went back and double checked the January newsletter and the February newsletter, and it's definitely different.
I wonder if they pulled a sneaky edit, because I the way I do my notes is I kind of write over the previous month just to compare, from last month's. And that's why I just like transparency, I made a note in the script here, because I was like,
yeah, I know
this is the same thing.
Caused me to go back and look at it.
And I should have gone back to the webpage and seen that, because it was the same as what I had in my notes. And I mean, I don't think I'm preeminent whatever. Thank you.
Yes, you saw into the future. Yes, you did.
Anyway,
but I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and they last month was talking about climbing, removing the endurance bar and putting in a different thing, and talked about exhaustion. Anyway, so that's this month's update on climbing, which sounds pretty cool. They talked about improving the starting areas for the shaman and wizard / enchanters. So just sort of changing up the layouts in those areas a little bit. If you look on the calendar, which we're going to talk about in a minute, you'll see a nice little bridge there. So that might be related to
the
that.
Keen watchers will have noted that bridge, that we've seen it before recently.
Yeah.
So
recently Co played his wizard. He was there many times crossing that bridge.
Yes, true. Out of curiosity, again, I've screwed up the script so many times this episode. I'm just like embracing it. But do you think that looks very different to you?
The bridge in the calendar, you mean? Does it look different? No, it looks exactly the same.
That's what I thought too. So I wonder if it'll look exactly more different.
I think this maybe was taken before they made their update. I don't know. I mean, it does say layouts to the area. It doesn't say the bridge specifically.
We'll know soon, I guess.
Maybe. We'll see soon enough. In terms of zones, they did an updated note about, this is interesting, additional ruined house variants added to Thronefast. Now we saw that on the dev stream.
We saw the models.
Yep. So it says beyond the lookout for bandits taking up residence in some of these abandoned homes. So what?
Challenge accepted.
So it's funny because I don't know how to feel about this. I feel like a bandit jumping out and like ambushing you in the middle of town would be a very people would either love it or hate it.
I don't think this is in town. I think this is just out and about.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it just says Thronefast, right? It's not like in Avalia or whatever, which is the town, that we have so far. I don't know. I'm excited though to see some of the new assets in. They've noted
Sure.
several, updates over the last few months about adding some more stuff, a little bit more to the zones, and it's good. They're just continuing to do that, so it's nice.
Yeah, I think in what we've seen of Thronefest as a zone in general, you could definitely use a little bit more of these, a little bit more details along the way, right? Like a little
Yeah.
more stuff like this is probably welcome.
In
to fill it
betweeners.
out a little bit. In betweeners, yeah, good way of saying it. It also said the improvements for the layout, biomes, and architecture of the pool of paths. And so this is what I said already: the shaman starting area, the wizard and enchanter starting area,
Yep.
has been changed up a little bit. Under animations, we got some cool new updates for completed. So they completed additional animations and polish for the following. They said one-handed auto attacks and combat idle stance, dual wield auto attacks and combat idle stance, one-handed with shield, death and near-death states, two-handed combat idle stance, and initiated work on two-handed blade auto attacks. So, I don't know when we'll see any of these, but VR did say they're making the push over the next month to integrate their new models with all of the newly polished animations. So that's pretty cool. And although, it was a good thing that this pre-alpha test, they didn't wipe the characters for, selfish reasons. I kind of hope that the March one is when we see this. And if they do, I think that would be sort of an indicator that we might actually see these in the next.
Yeah, I hope so, man. But I am really glad they gave at least a little update on this. At least like a kind of somewhat projection, next month or so. Because, as we've kind of said, each month that we go through this, it feels like we're getting these, like we were going to be getting these a little while ago, or at least that's kind of like what I think we were under the impression of. And, they've been held up a while, or at least it feels that way. And, I'm still very eager to see them, and all the other stuff that comes with them, with the animations and stuff, like in game. And I do hope this is done by next session, especially if that session, is public in any way. It just, especially like Darkmar. We don't even know what they look like still. Like they're supposed to be basically done. Like, yeah.
I'd love to see them. I think that would be a really nice addition to the next test, and I think it would go a long way to doing a sort of a refresh on the testing sessions. Remember, at the beginning of the year, we said that these testing sessions are going to be a litmus test for how much progress is actually happening, right? So they've told us they've been really focused on the networking, getting that's rock solid. I mean, that makes sense. The last 2-3 tests now, no character wipes. They just focus on the networking aspect. Now we're ready to move into other stuff. So
yeah, it definitely felt like we're still in that like nose down kind of phase of wrapping up a lot of loose ends. They started the monthly sessions, which is great, right? But it definitely, I don't know. I feel like this producer's letter was a bit lighter than we've gotten. Like I don't want to say that crafting and gathering stuff wasn't pretty big, but there's just something kind of made me feel like, that was it.
No, I agree.
I don't know, it's just a feeling. But I want to see development ramping up. Maybe it was just kind of all those updated quote unquote sections, but but it's just like, I don't know. Maybe we'll get another great dev stream like we did last month, and that always makes it hard to follow up, right? Like whenever they have a good piece of content, it's like it's tough to go after that. But yeah, like what did you think about the producer's letter this month?
Yeah, pretty much the same as you. I have the same feelings almost to the letter, because so the next section we'll talk about in a minute, but again, it was interesting to see some of the work that goes on behind the scenes, but it's also very technical. And I just think I think that we're still in that, like, waiting to see how these monthly tests are, what fruit are they bearing? Like, what are they producing? Is it because of the testing that we got? They're now able to get away from the networking and the back end stuff. Is that the result of that? I would have liked to think it is, but what other fruit has it bore?
Yeah.
So Yeah, just a bit of a light newsletter, but I think you're right. I mean, we talked about the dev stream this month being really, really solid. You know, all that video footage, all the visual treats we got were, so you sort of balance that and it ends up in the middle somewhere. And I think, you know, at a nice place,
If
a
anything,
reasonable
having, you know, the producer's letter roadmap and stuff be a little on the light side, it gives us a little bit more room for the other big stuff this week.
Yeah, we do have other big stuff. So let's move on. So the dev feature that I mentioned a minute ago was with Esther Shin, one of their artists, talking about some of the signature botanicals that they're developing. So a really nice screenshot, really, really nice. I really love how they put the blur in the background and sort of edit it to look however it looks, you know, whatever they did to make it look like that. There was a quote right at the top of this piece that says, in creating the world of Terminus, especially due to its uniqueness with planar collisions causing fractures and wild climates, it's important to include highlights, both big and small, that surround the player, creating a feeling of uniqueness within the current space they inhabit. So really like how they're tying in the lore of the world and the reasons for things to be there.
Yep.
We've talked about this,
As
you
you'd
and I,
expect.
about this. And, yep. So these flowers that we see are called King's Bloom, Thronefestian King's Bloom, actually. And one of the concept art pieces that went along with it actually has a human height reference. So you see they're quite tall. They're sort of like 3/4 as tall as a human. So, you know, expect that they're not just little flowers on the forest floor. They're actually quite large. With the nice little details that Jared includes in all his concept art. So this one went into some of the technical stuff about how Esther's using, you know, the tools like ZBrush and Photoshop and Maya to do all the things that they do to create this. And it's very interesting from a technical standpoint, but not a lot for us to talk about though. So
yeah, I feel like if
mention it.
anything, it kind of showcases that there's more to making even just like a simple custom asset than you know some people might think. But as far as like game details, it's kind of like, it's almost like a follow-up to last month, right? With the concept art piece, it's like, well, here's the next step. And that's cool. It's cool, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's just the little details that catch your eye and stuff like this stands out. So I appreciate the hard work that's going into it. And, you know, again, keep your eye on the video, the stream from PA Test this weekend. Maybe you'll see those. And then last but not least in the newsletter was the calendar for the things coming up in March. So do a quick recap of the calendar. March 9th, we have another VIP Bring Out Your Devs interview. This one with character artist Philip Kedge. So that's somebody new that we haven't heard from before. That'll be interesting for the VIPs.
Yeah, I have to like shout out Philip because, you know, he came from the community. So it's going to be really neat to get the tables turned a little bit, you know, and have him already be a part of the official VR content. It's really neat.
Yeah. Philip was a regular in the Rewind chat a long time. Well, not a long time, but before he was with VR. And then once he was with VR, it still comes around once in a while. So really love to hear from him on the 9th. March 16th is the next dev live stream. And we're going to get Nefel, who is going to be talking about gathering and crafting. Yeah. So lots of details and follow-up stuff that we can ask, have a chance to ask during that session. On the 23rd, Parting the Veil returns for the month of March after a month off in February. They're going to be talking about what open world means in terms of Pantheon. So I love me some open worlds.
Yeah, me too. I love open worlds. I'm really curious. You know, these are always just so vague. It's rather titillating, but we'll see.
Okay, total tangent here. I apologize, but I started playing Elden Ring again, like as a caster class. Oh my god, it's so much easier as a caster class, I gotta tell you, for one. But that game defines open world. Like, that is the best open world game I've ever played. It is unbelievable.
It's so funny you even say that because someone else just earlier this week had those exact same words. Like, we got props to them. And I'm curious how it's defined for Pantheon, right? And we'll see. We'll see on the 23rd.
We will, yeah, absolutely. On the, I skipped over the March 18th and 19th. This is actually the next date for the next pre-alpha testing session.
Yeah.
So that's Saturday, the 18th to Sunday, the 19th from 10 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific on the following.
It is
Sunday.
interesting they moved it up though, right? Like,
yeah, it's a little earlier in the month than we're used to.
and it also means that if we have difficulty this week cramming everything together, I mean we'll see what happens next month. I hope they have another like stream for someone next month, even if it's just like if it's or something, just for the sheer saturation, right? But
Sure.
again, for us having to put this all together, imagine how much harder this is going to be with a dev stream and a PA test.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying not to think about that too much.
Yeah. We'll tackle that when we get there.
That's a lot of work. Yes, that's for another day. That's tomorrow with Eric's problem. And then the March newsletter comes out on March 30th. So that'll wrap up the month again. So, and then finally in the newsletter, of course, is the community feature. We met Ellerin, who is a regular over on the official Discord. Very chatty over there. Nice to get to know them as well. You mentioned as well, you got a note here about the art update they released on YouTube, right?
The art update. Yes. Oh, I see. I can't believe I already forgot, even though I have it in the notes. Yeah, we're doing great. So this is actually really cool. And I'm glad you reminded me because, this is something I really, really appreciate. I mean, a little bit just as a content creator, but also just like, it's just really nice to condense something that was just released into a more, like easy to digest or share portion. And what they did is they took like all of these art updates that they've done recently, like, because it wasn't even just the dev stream, right? It was like it was like 2 months of stuff, basically.
Right.
Shoved it all together in one awesome little like B-roll video on their YouTube channel. And the positive is I really love it. It's great B-roll and it's nice to have it all together. On the other side of it, it is so awkward to me because it's all super in progress. I already can tell from some of the comments that people aren't taking it that way. So it's a little bit of a trade-off, but I got to say, I appreciate it. I think they should keep doing it, but definitely check it out.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I looked at the comments. They were like, 80% positive and then 20% whatever, right? So just take it for what it is. But I think it makes life much easier for the content creators as well to have that all available like that. And then finally, before we move on, the congratulations to the winner of the February 2023 pre-alpha session giveaway that they did. So this is again through gleam.io. This one goes out to Bjorn Tor, who won themselves a pre-alpha pass, basically. So look forward to seeing you in there this weekend, Bjorn.
That is really fun thing. I hope we see this person in PA because that is the jolliest thing ever.
The jolliest thing ever. Yes, absolutely. All right. So that's the news. Let's look at the notes for our calendar for the week coming up, February 27th through to March 5th. Of course, midnight Eastern, Monday, the After Dark crew continues to play Dark Age of Camelot. And if you haven't checked it out, they actually have been... The Drac opened up a merch store on the Twitch channel on the page. So if you want to get some Pantheon Plus merch, we're going to be putting that out. It's also in the Discord under the server rules channel. You can find the link to that. But go and hang out with them Mondays, midnight Eastern on our Twitch channel. We're still playing Lord of the Rings online Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:00 on Tuesday, 7:00 on Thursday. Twitch on Tuesday, YouTube on Thursday. We're having a ton of fun. The raiding is about to commence. We are close to raid level, so that's going to be fun. March Madness for our MMO March Madness. Voting begins on Wednesday. So if you have not made a bracket yet and you want to know how to do it, join our Discord. There's a channel that has rules. It has an explanation about how to do it. You got to get that in before March 1st because that is when the voting begins. And whoever wins is going to win some of that merch that I mentioned. So yeah, good luck. I know some people are waiting to the very last second to put their
I want to scope out the competition,
Yeah, it is sort of the, smart way to do it, I guess you might say. But
I've never done this before. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, man.
You're just Nathan Napalm he's got the strategy. I know he was talking about it on stream there the other night. So And then on Wednesday as well, our friend Benonai has another chapter of Amensol's Shadow, The Fox and the Wolf, going up on Pantheon.plus. And his fan fiction is something to always be aware of. Now we have a new fan fiction piece from our friend Breakout, who's gone for a little bit and now back in the community and has written a fan fiction piece. Now I'm not going to try and pronounce this because I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm just going to say it's called Savior in the Snow. It has a pre-title, but we're just going to go with Savior in the Snow. And again, that's going to be on our website at Pantheon.plus if you want to read Breakout's fan fiction, his inaugural fan fiction piece. And that'll go up on Saturday. But before that, on Friday, our friend Redbeard Flynn has a video going up on his YouTube channel called New RPGs in 2023. So checking out what's going on, what's coming up this year in RPGs. So we're going to throw it here to future Theric and Desrin because we are recording this on Friday, but we are also going to record on Saturday after our pre-alpha session to give you some reflections as the little intro there suggested. So enjoy these pre-alpha testing stream reflections. All right, so here we are, everybody. We are future Theric and Desrin, and we are here to talk about what we just experienced in the pre-alpha test stream that we were able to do. Hopefully, you all saw it and you enjoyed it, and you had some thoughts that we can answer during the live chat and during the premiere. But Desrin, I just wanted to. I thought we'd just give some off-the-cuff reactions, and you have some notes, some ideas, some things you want to mention.
I was juggling a lot of things, so my note taking was not nearly as good as it usually would be. But I will say, man, that I am feeling some feels after that.
Me too.
The emotional impact of that whole thing was probably just as big as the more mechanical, like, hey, we got to show things and all this.
There was a comment that I called out during the stream from Nathan Napalm where he just said, this is what Brad's vision was. You guys are embodying Brad's vision. Like, dude, that hits me deep. Like, that really touches a nerve for me. And that is what I feel like we're capable of doing. And I feel like that came across in the stream, and I'm just so validating to hear that. But what a nice group centric experience it was. We all played a role, right? Like, you had your heals, Stans on the tanking, and Daimos on the off tank, and Sparrow on the rogue, and Drac on the wizard, and me on the enchanter. Just everybody doing their part. Like, felt so good to be interdependent on each other, right? You were dependent on a little bit of mana incoming from me, but also on Stans, and his abilities, using his abilities properly so that you could actually hold up as our only healer, right?
I mean, Daimlos saved me as well.
At
one point. I mean, I also saved him, but that whole dynamic of we really we have all this practice with the 101 and 201 group, and the Monday nights and all this. And it really was just our typical group, just we maybe explain things more. Right. Mm-hmm. But that was just how it be. I know people probably, I was thinking about this during the stream, but people looking back to the last dev stream that they did in December, where they showed going through some deeper parts of the Goblin Caves, right? Which was really cool. But, with plenty of bias, I'm sure, I feel like ours was different somehow. I feel like getting to that spot is sort of a necessary part of the experience. You know what I mean? Because you getting to a place is an achievement. That's a mob you're overcoming as well. Just the trying to get to that location and, going through that dark cave and Stan's trying to sort of navigate us through there and picking which, do I take left or right? Which way do we go? The other thing I noticed too, when we were in there, and that I wanted to mention on stream and I didn't, but hearing other groups around us, right? Yeah.
Hearing the sounds of combat and spells being cast and things going on around you. It's something that's subtle, but I think a lot of people miss in the modern MMO experience. You don't really hear that anymore. And that's awesome. I keyed in on it right away.
I mean, that moment where, so we were, kind of just hitting our heads, like, walking around in this dark cave, right? And we're not seeing many people. We're seeing, stragglers and stuff. And then, one group that kind of tails up to pick up their corpses and all this. But then we get to that area that I'm surprised we made it, right? We get to that area and there's like a mass of people deep inside of this dungeon. How cool is that, man? And that was like a total accident. Like, I think that's one thing that this stream is going to really show is, the dev streams are really isolated. They're natural and stuff. Obviously, they're just goofing around with their friends, just like we are. But having all these people around and like we had some goals, right? But it was so organic, really. And I can't get over that feeling of sharing what the actual experience is like. And like, we're not trying to blow it up or like make it seem like something it's not. Like, there were places we could have gone that would have probably shown better, I think. I mean, the ruins were pretty cool, but like, we're not doing anything weird. And I hope people trust us enough at this point to know that we wouldn't do that anyway. And I'm really glad that there's that side out there. As kind of a, yang to the dev stream version, right?
Yes. You're right. I mean, the dev stream versions are sort of a canned experience with nobody else, in the world, that they're just out there by themselves. And this felt more like we were in a world that we were in. And we dropped down to that hole at the end when people were like, that was a great moment too, by the way.
That's why we had to do it. We had to do it.
Me and Sparrow were like, no, you can't make us. And then you're like, come on. Okay, fine. Like, even stuff like that happens in a social, way, a social context. It's just very satisfying. So yeah, ending up where we did is very exciting, and knowing that there's people down there also helped us get there. Like, it helped us because there was mobs were cleared out. I mean, there was some, the path was laid down a little bit, which is kind of a nice thing.
Daimlos noted that in the after show, that the undead ruins in a sense were easier because there was like 6 groups camping it. All these little things that kind of play into the whole experience, like other groups just existing in this open world, is crazy. And just to tail on to that little bit that we were just covering, do you feel like it was weird how natural this felt? Like, we're just streaming Pantheon, like we're streaming any other game. I don't know if it's just because the practice, we've gotten from doing other games, but
that's what I chalk it up to, is that we are sort of like practiced as a streaming as a group. I think it's a very rare thing that you don't see a lot. You don't see, I mean, streaming is generally a solo activity these days. But I think we've sort of honed our craft a little bit here, and that really, I felt like that came through. I felt like it paid off because it's not easy to do.
It was exciting. Obviously we're all excited, but at the same time, it was just so natural. It was so natural.
Totally. Another note that I had made here, and we didn't really talk about it yet, but was how stable the game was. No crashes. I thought it ran well. I mean, for me, it runs fine. I thought it looked great, but I want to talk about the stability, because that is something we talked about earlier in this episode, was how they're getting to the point. They feel like they're at a point where they have a really solid networking and back-end solution, and they're ready to move into different areas. I thought that was demonstrated well in the stream. We didn't have a single crash. We didn't really run into any lag. I mean, there's those chunks where you hit a line, an invisible line, and you sort of chunk. We saw that. Yeah.
And I'm gonna push back and say just level streaming, because that is something that should get solved over time, just so people don't associate it with the V word. But yeah,
the chunking. I knew as soon as I said chunking, I was gonna draw out the V word. But I was happy that the game performed so well and held up, and really want to give VR kudos for that. So,
and I can't stress enough, it looks better every single time too. Optimizations obviously are going to happen later, and they are happening as well. Like, obviously, like, we can't speak to specifics so much, but like, they are still doing things that can be done. But like, it looks better every single time. You know, they add new stuff. Even the ruins actually surprised me. I was like, whoa, for some reason, these just seem like they look better than I remember. And it doesn't run like a, released game should, I don't think. So,
No,
but
I agree.
it runs good enough to test without issue, I would say.
And I would say it runs good enough to do a stream like this. Like I felt like we weren't hindered by any kind of technical issues. I mean,
well, Drac was running it at
yes.
low, right? Which is a kind of unfortunate, but in
it's
development
a streaming
software
thing though, and it's again, we saw this with Embers Adrift too, right? When it
when it's
unoptimized for the streaming process, and your computer's trying to both play it and stream it, and OBS is interacting as well, so you get into some technical issues there. But on VR's end, I think from just a pure gameplay standpoint, it performed very, very well, and I'm very hopeful for that. It's funny, there was a lot of times when I wanted to be in control of where the camera was looking, because I wanted to look at so many things.
Oh yeah.
Like we walked into that cave and there was one of the giant, one of the plants props was right at the entrance to the cave, and I walked over to it. But I'm like, if I was streaming, I would be showing this, and Drac is doing a million things, and this is not a critique. This is just saying, like, my eye was caught by so many things that I wanted to show people. The King's Bloom, the Throne Fasting King's Bloom we talked about earlier in the show, was on display. It was there. You saw it. So many things to look at, right?
You just have to hope that there are people out there as crazy as us that are going to pick apart every little thing and even if it wasn't focused on, maybe see stuff I hear you though.
That's what Benonai's here for.
Yeah, that's right.
He'll go through the stream and do a pick it apart. So, any other notes or any other reflections you had, Desmond?
I don't know, man. I'm really full of appreciation. I hope that was clear from all of us in the stream. Tons of dev, folks hanging out in chat and in game, and just I really felt the support from VR and the community, and like that just it totally made my day and made the stream really, really cool. Like no one was breaking NDA, no one was flaming us, backseating or anything. Like it was just so effortless and wholesome.
Yeah, agreed. We were talking before the stream about being like, are you nervous? Are you feeling the nerves? And I was like, no, I'm just hyped. I'm just jacked up. I just want to get in there and do this thing, because it's like, I know what it could be. And I really do feel fulfilled by it. I feel like it met my expectations for what I wanted to show. I already in my head, I want to start developing a game plan for the next time we want to stream, right? Or next time.
There's so many things we could do better as well.
Well, there's just other things we could do. Like there's stuff we didn't go, places we didn't go that I want to show people.
Hopefully we made that clear.
And the other thing is I want to get my cleric for the next stream, because I got that wicked hammer we saw drop in the Spirit Ruins. Dude, as soon as we are done this, I'm going back in there and I'm getting my cleric and I'm equipping that sucker. So man, oh man. And Drac was smart and went down and looted it, showed it on stream before I looted it. So just amazing.
Yeah, and little moments like that I think are what is really going to make our stream stand out, and hopefully things that we can continue, just being a natural group. And it's just you observe them in their natural habitat, right?
Observe them in their natural habitat, right? Exactly.
That was.
Yeah. The only thing that I maybe am disappointed is my lore reading was interrupted by random Rob's training activities. I was mid lore read and that got interrupted, but
how rude.
Not salty about it. Yeah, how rude, right? However, not salty about it, because if you're listening to this, you're actually going to hear all the things I was going to say at the end of the show during the lore, because I was
Eric will get you anyway.
Thinking ahead. Yeah, I'll get you anyway.
So
Rob
great.
Can't stop the lore no matter how hard you try, Rob. You can't
stop the lore. Oh man,
stop the lore. That's the next Mana Rohan song, by the way. So yeah, let's I just wanted to make a short little reflections reaction piece here for the show, about 15 minutes long. So let's wrap this up, unless you have anything else, Des. Anything else you want to mention?
Nope. I could kind of just wrap it up with if you're here listening to the rewind, and you haven't seen the VOD yet. If you're here for the premiere, it probably won't be up on YouTube for a bit. But if you're watching after the fact, definitely check it out on YouTube and tell us what you think. Give us feedback, and if you agree or you're frustrated by something, or just throw it out there. We're really curious, and I know VR is really curious as well to see how that showed, right? But yeah, is that it for you two?
Yeah, that's it for me too. I think that's all I have to say. So
All right.
wrap it up.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys enjoyed our little kind of more just conversational unpacking, I guess, of the PA session stream. And hopefully this will be the first of many. And I guess you guys are just
Onward and
along for
upward.
the ride. Yeah, onward and upward. There we go. That's right. Onward and upward to this week's Community Spotlight. The Pantheon community is full of cool projects, new people, and things that are just worth sharing. What's this over here? Look at that. So let's see what we can find in this week's Community Spotlight. All right. Well, it's going to be hard to follow that up, but we got to shout out our community creators, and we've got a few things this week. As you mentioned in the notes in our calendar earlier, Benonai has been cracking out these fan fiction series, and that continues this last week if you missed it. First off, he's got part 2 of Amensol's Shadow, The Fox and the Wolf, which, again, this is fan fiction. I have to say it again, though, he's getting just really great at narrating and creating ambience. It's such a treat.
Yeah. I'm tempted to steal your thunder here because I'm looking at the next part of the notes because that's what I was going to mention.
Take
too,
it away.
I'll let you continue.
No. Okay. So Benonai, he's already venturing out into other things. This guy's he's a machine, man. What he took, the energy he took into his conspiracy theories and all this other stuff, he's just taken straight to video creation. And so naturally he's already doing new things, and this was a great surprise. He put out this other video called Saga of Strangers, the Dwarves. And this is where Benonai, he just whips out this kind of the Scottish accent.
Yeah, man. Who knew he had it in him? I've talked to him. He doesn't have a Scottish accent, but he did
there
for
we
this.
go. And the way he does this, he tells this backstory of the dwarves from the perspective of the Eridola, which is a new faction or race that we know of.
Yeah, they're a race. I think.
It's just a really cool take on racial backstory, and who doesn't love the racial backstory of the dwarves anyway? So it's hard to miss that, but he did not miss it. So I really appreciate the creativity. I wouldn't have thought of that.
No, absolutely. I'm going to give a little teaser here too. It's not in the script, but some of you have been watching on the 201. We had Mana Rohan on in our crew, and he's got something in the works. I think there's a collaboration between him and Benonai that you might see at some point down the road. So, you know what the kind of content Mana Rohan creates? Very musical. Keep an ear out for something between these two. Inspirations down the road here. Good
call out, man. Well, lastly, thanks to our friends at Disparate Worlds, specifically Moxis, he does this like quick recap of the newsletter in video form. So I know we're rather long-winded. And this is like, kind of Cliff Notes version of at least the first part of the producer's letter. And it's like something they started last year. So if you like those quick recaps, make sure you're subscribed to their channel. And they do Pantheon and Ashes stuff. And this is a great little series that they do. So, yeah,
good stuff from them. Haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah. I was like a little afraid they stopped, but she's back on it. So whatever. It's great. And honestly, I thought there was more this week. I don't know if it's just like the anticipation of what's to come, but like, I crawled around the community. I couldn't find the stuff that I thought I was missing. So, yeah, I think it's just, I'm a little frantic, but, as always, if I did miss something, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to shout it out on the next rewind. If it's something that like we really should have mentioned. And, I think that is going to be it, though, for this week's Community Spotlight.
Sit back and relax. It's time for The Lore You Know. All right, well, it has been way too long since we actually read some canon lore from this game. And now I know we've read this piece before, but it's been a while. So, and with the pre-alpha stream this weekend, I wanted to get back to basics in a way, because I think that there might be some new people checking out the game for the first time this weekend. So I thought, like, what would be the best lore to introduce players to the world of Terminus? And the answer to that question is there's two pieces. Firstly, there's the introduction by the Keeper. And although it's not on the website at the moment, it is actually available. If you go to VR's SoundCloud page, they have a recording of somebody doing the voiceover of it. As well as the other game music is there too. And that's the first piece. And then the second is from the Journal of Semina, the last of the Jinto, detailing their homeworld's destruction and their arrival then on Terminus. So I thought these both painted a really nice picture for players who may just be discovering the game. So whether you're new or old, listen along as I read some of the lore that helps set the stage in Pantheon, as written by lead writer Jan Gerhardt and read by myself. To all who desire a home in this world. Must you meet an Ember Elf to know that the ancient ways are changing? Or be haunted by the past of the Darkmer to reflect that perhaps you are as well? Must you see an ogre stagger from blows to know that any beast can be defeated? Or witness an Archai transformed in birth to understand that which delivers life may also yield great pain? Must you witness the ferocity of a dwarf to fear their stillness in the storm? Or spy a halfling's peaceful sleep to endorse their madness when it abounds? Must you tremble before the hivish gnomes to be reminded of the realms we came from so long ago? Or weep as the scar subvert a single tree to know there are threats which may only be defeated here and now? Must you recite Avendir's speech of souls to be stirred as deeply to endure in every season? I have told my own self the answer to all these questions is no. Yet, I do not know if I believe it. Thus, friend, if you are truly looking for a home, I compel you, go searching for it. There has never been nothing. When the thorns of Terminus press against your skin, it may not seem useful to remember the past. As you look the rose of this world in the eye, a natural beauty crowned in the splendor of her many peoples, you may think that only the blind could deny this all had a beginning. Beneath the innumerable hands of deities and pantheons, it may seem only a faithless fool should doubt such a plain thing, and with the splinters of other worlds grafted over the skin of this one, springing back to life as of old, to argue against realms beyond may sound as astute as claiming the death of the sun after its rays retreat for night. But I saw a dreadful power spread its wings over the cosmos, and it pierced my faith in the past. I stared into the eyeless face of an eclipse as it bore down on my world, crowned in the dust of those it had already turned to nothing. I have felt the hands of my Pantheon torn in two, witnessed that cosmic power grip the very god I worshipped with indifference, withering him to a dead husk. The ground beneath my feet splintered as my own planet's invincible beauty was crushed by an unseen hand, only a fragment of my people spared. I was blind with fear. I called the sun dead. I believed in nothing. Yet nothing did not claim me. This world is filled with those it did not claim, preserved by an unseen hand, perhaps at great risk. Though I have no evidence of it, there is a war waged beyond our gods for many things, and this world is one of them. To these higher sovereignties we gave our nothing, and they have given us Terminus. Though lain in a bed of thorns, this world is a cradle of infant hope for we old orphans. This is our wild, delicate cosmos now. This is our undeserved inheritance, our humble crown. And we must exhaust ourselves, knowing and discovering it, lose ourselves defending it from within. For there has never been nothing, nor will there ever be. And that is the lore you know. And that is a long show. I'm assuming we had a lot to say. So for everybody listening, we're recording this Friday. We're going to record another piece tomorrow, Saturday, after the PA test. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what we said there. I'm assuming we were long-winded.
Yeah,
like
we just assume that we had some, massive, crazy things to say and a bunch of reminiscing and nostalgia and, trying to call out things we missed. I don't know. Who knows what's going to be in there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and managed to stick to the end of this, rather lengthy episode. And Theric, I'm sorry I didn't call out the lore in the beginning of the show.
No worries. It's been sort of because we didn't have it last week, so you're out of practice.
Exactly.
Right? You weren't expecting.
But this was a great choice. I have to come by and say, and ties right into everything. It's a great little bow on the episode.
Yeah, thanks. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that, and hopefully you also enjoyed the stream. Let us know in the comments here. We didn't want to wait till next week to do a stream recap. We wanted to get it right in here because it's going to air on Sunday, and you'll have seen it on Saturday. So we wanted to be very current. So hopefully that was enjoyable for you guys. Let us know what you thought in the comments. As always, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. As somebody in the community told me this week, fracture that like button.
Fracture that like button.
You know how it is. Oh, so yeah, all that good stuff. Share the show on your socials if you don't mind. And thank you again, everybody, for your support. We always appreciate it. And I really hope you have a great week. We will see you here same time next week. Ciao.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Pantheon Plus Rewind. Pantheon Plus is not affiliated with Visionary Realms. Be sure to check out our Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube channels under the name Pantheon Plus. You can follow Theric at Pantheon Theric on Twitter, and Desrin at DesrinDoes also on Twitter. And you can stay up to date with all things Pantheon at www.pantheon.plus. Until next time, cheers, and thanks for listening.